45-year-old Katie McLean was a free spirit. Friends remarked about her calming presence. She believed in the power of love to heal all things. On the morning of the 15th of May, 2020, Katie went missing. That same morning, a disturbing text message began circulating amongst her social circle, sparking concerns that something horrific may have befallen the loving mother of three. The text accused Katie of manipulation. It referred to her as a devil. Friends saw this message and immediately feared the worst. Hi there, I'm Kevin, and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case takes us to the beautiful suburb of Dover, Massachusetts, where Katie McLean and her husband, Dr. Ingolf Tuerk, or Harry to friends, appeared to be living a blissful life in their $2 million mansion. Of course, things are not always as they appear. And after Katie went missing, two opposing versions of this life came into view. Somewhere in this couple's chaotic history is the truth. So let's take a look. Around 8 a.m. on a Friday morning in May 2020, Vanessa Pettigrew was at home with her husband and children when she received an ominous and concerning message to her phone. The text had originally been received by a man named Kurt, who had decided to forward it to her. Kurt did so because the message was about Vanessa's close friend, Kathleen or Katie McLean, and had been written by Katie's husband, Harry. Katie and Harry had been estranged and had reconciled only days earlier. The text read, "Kurt, I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. She played us all. I'm really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry." In response, Kurt had messaged, "What happened?" Harry did not respond. He called Katie's cell phone but received no answer. As time passed without a response from either Katie or Harry, his concerns grew. Kurt and Vanessa had established a code word weeks earlier. If Katie ever needed their help, she was to message them about popcorn. After forwarding the alarming text from Harry, Kurt wrote to Vanessa, "We might have a popcorn situation." They both believed that Katie was in danger. Also unable to reach Katie on her cell phone, Vanessa drove out to the long-stay hotel residence where Harry had been staying while the couple worked through their marital issues. In the parking lot was the Mercedes that Harry usually drove. Katie's Jeep was also parked nearby. But there was no response to calls made up to the room. So Vanessa drove to the home that Katie and Harry had shared at 29 Valley Road in Dover. Prior to the separation, the couple lived in the $2 million mansion with Katie's 3 children. That morning, Vanessa knocked on the door and peered through the windows. At the side door, she spotted 13-year-old Sam and caught his attention. All 3 of Katie's teenage children, Sam, Grace, and Sophie, were safe at home. Their mother, however, was not. With the children out of the house, officers scanned the exterior of the large property. They did not find any sign of Katie or Harry. However, inside the house, small but telling clues suggested a violent altercation had taken place. Through the garage and then into the downstairs hallway, a pattern began to emerge on the floor. 2 tiny dark spots, spaced a few inches apart, followed by another pair of the same dark stains 2 feet further along on the floor. The trail was visible from just inside the doorway. It led through the kitchen where countertops displayed dirty martini glasses and half-empty bottles of liquor. From there, the stains led towards the stairs. Following the pattern to the second floor and down another hallway, officers noted that the door and door frame to the bedroom at the end of the hall had significant damage. The door jamb had been splintered, the lock ruined, and the door forced open. In the room, the trail led to the end of the bed. Shards of glass were scattered at the base. 2 broken glasses, one on the chest of drawers and a second which had rolled under a nightstand, appeared to be the source of these shattered pieces. The bedding sat in a pile on the floor next to the bed itself. The mattress stained with what was later confirmed to be Katie's blood. On the nightstand was a large bag. It was Katie's purse. Officers gave her cell phone a call and waited as the purse began to vibrate. They found her iPhone inside. The home screen was full of notifications. All of the missed calls and messages that had been pouring in from her many concerned family members and friends. "45-year-old Katie McLean, dedicated mother of 3, was also a healer. Through her business, Birch Tree Energy and Healing, she provided services as a Reiki master. Reiki is a Japanese energy healing technique that uses hand placements to channel universal life energy known as ki. The treatment is used to promote relaxation and well-being by easing stress, reducing pain, and supporting emotional and spiritual healing. She also advertised her abilities as a psychic medium. A free spirit, Katie was known to her many friends as a woman of grace, who sought always to support and care for others. It is not surprising then that roughly a year after her second divorce, she fell for another healer. Indeed, a celebrated surgeon who spent his days saving lives. The 58-year-old, who went by Harry, was born Ingolf Tuerk and spent the first 30 years of his life in East Germany, emigrating to the United States not long after the fall of the Berlin Wall. He was a former athlete in the decathlon, having attended the 1980 Moscow Olympics as an alternate on the East German team. Later, Harry had served in the German Air Force and attended medical school. In Massachusetts, the doctor had been recruited by St. Elizabeth's Medical Center for the progressive, life-saving expertise he held in robotic surgery. He became the chief of urology. The hospital used his face on a billboard campaign across the state, and in 2012, he was featured in a promotional video.
Dr. Ingolf Tuerk is not your typical surgeon. At 6'3" with an athletic physique, it's easy to see why he was once a member of the German Olympic decathlon team.
Surgery is physical, very demanding work. For hours, you are physically involved in a surgery, and that requires that you're physically fit as a surgeon.
But what makes Dr. Tuerk truly different is his skill at robotic surgery. He is convinced that robotic surgery leads to better outcomes for his patients.
On May 15th, with his wife considered a missing and endangered person, police found the doctor unconscious in his hotel room. He was immediately rushed to the hospital. Harry's blood alcohol level was so high, even when tested hours after he had passed out, that a note was made on his medical record suggesting that he may have attempted to purposefully poison himself. Harry was also covered in scratches. What was striking to law enforcement were the number and nature of these minor injuries. The surgeon had cuts, some more severe than others, on areas all over his body. He had small marks on his hands, notably above his thumb and index finger. He had scratches on his arms, his calves, his thighs. The marks on his hands and arms were typical of defense wounds. There were 2 small abrasions on his hairline. None of these injuries were serious, yet many pointed to the worst possible conclusion: that Harry and his missing wife had a violent altercation. While Harry recuperated and received treatment, investigators obtained a search warrant for both of his vehicles, the Mercedes and the Jeep. The search and subsequent forensic tests on the Mercedes did not return anything useful. The Jeep, however, had a story to tell. A stain on the steering wheel was a match to Katie's blood. Similarly, testing of swabs taken from the external and internal door handles on the driver's side, passenger side, and the trunk all returned results linked to Katie. A half-empty bottle of scotch was left on the passenger seat. When the bottle was moved, there was a small knife visible behind it. The knife did not have Katie's DNA, but it was nonetheless obvious that she had been in the Jeep after sustaining injuries in the bedroom. Her husband had been absent from his hotel for most of the night, returning at roughly 5:30 a.m. He had been driving the Jeep. It was the following day, 30 hours after Harry had been taken to the hospital for treatment, when detectives conducted a formal interview. The surgeon told them that he had little to no recollection of the previous day.
Let's get to yesterday. Tell me about yesterday.
What?
Yesterday?
I really don't recall much.
Yeah.
Anything. I must have drunk a lot. And
Yeah.
I'm
trying to get to, how you ended up here,
I can't tell you. I'm sorry, but I can't remember. But I just woke up yesterday. But today, in the hospital.
Okay. You don't know how you ended up here?
Even not, no, I can't really remember.
Tell me this, when's the last time you saw Cat?
Katie and I, that's what I remember. And we went watching TV and, we drank some alcohol. And I don't even know what happened after that.
Harry was prompted by detectives with the facts they had already deduced. There must have been an argument, and it must have turned physical.
Tell me about the argument you guys had Thursday night.
The what?
The argument you guys had Thursday night?
Argument?
Yes. Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't know about an argument.
Okay.
The issue with Harry's assertion that he had no memory of the events of the previous Thursday evening was that he did not show signs of extreme intoxication until after returning to his hotel room. He was captured pulling out his wallet for a keycard to access the building and entering without so much as a stumble.
You don't remember driving?
I don't remember. I was driving. I don't know.
So the Devon Police Department got called to the residence inn Friday at 11 a.m. for a well-being check on Kathleen because no one had heard from her since 6 p.m. Thursday evening. When I got there, we located the white Jeep and your Mercedes parked in the parking lot. You told us earlier that you believe that you were operating the white Jeep at one point. The white Jeep was parked between the lines perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with the exterior of the Jeep indicating that you may have been intoxicated. So how could you not remember driving that Jeep back to the hotel?
The interview lasted roughly 3 hours. Eventually, Harry requested a break. Returning after 45 minutes, Harry began telling a story of what had transpired at 29 Valley 2 days earlier. He and Katie had played a game with the children. Later in the evening, after several martinis, they had gone to the bedroom. Their reconciliation had been bumpy. According to the doctor, his wife had jealousy issues. She routinely checked his phone and read his messages. He claimed that she read his email. She frequently accused him of cheating, he said. So it was that night. Harry was texting with an old friend, a female friend.
And then she looked at my phone and saw text messages of an old friend that she always despised. And she wanted to see what we talked about during our separation time. I said, don't do this because there's angry words in there because we're very angry at each other. And so I said, please don't look at the messages because they're not true for today. That was true 3 months ago. But she wanted to see what has been said. Yeah. And then she got very angry again because she saw some stuff that she didn't like. Really angry again.
Harry painted his Reiki master wife as violent and aggressive. He claimed that she threw a glass at him, striking him on the right side of his head. So he reached out instinctively to defend himself.
And then what, Jim? Go ahead, Harry.
think I choked her.
You think you did?
As a reaction to that aggressive aggression situation.
So you've gotten over the hump, you've gotten over the hard part. Let's hear it all. Let's hear everything.
I didn't know what to do.
A critical question remained. Where was Katie?
She's in water.
She is in water?
Yes.
Okay. Like a lake or a pond?
Pond.
Wow, where is this pond?
It's close around the corner from the house.
To the house? Okay.
So
There's nothing weighting her down?
I may have put a rock on top of her, but I'm not sure.
Is there anything else you want to say, Harry? Like,
I'm so sorry, but
Yeah.
I really loved her.
A 2-minute drive from the house on Valley Road is another rural property on Francis Street. It is set back from the road and surrounded by woodland. Harry and Katie had once considered purchasing it as their new family home. A small pond was positioned to the left of the long drive. As law enforcement descended on the area to search the water, they discovered a small black tank top caught on the branch of a nearby tree. The woodland floor was covered in thorns, the likely cause of Harry's many lighter scratches. When Katie was pulled from the water, they found her topless. 2 large rocks, each weighing an estimated 16 pounds, had been stuffed into the pockets of her trousers, causing her to sink to the bottom. The medical examiner found her cause of death to be strangulation. The manner? Homicide. Katie and her 3 children had moved into the house at 29 Valley Road in March 2018, a few months after meeting Harry on Bumble. Roughly 2 years later, they eloped at a drive-through chapel in Las Vegas. Harry was there for a medical conference. From there, accounts differ. In Harry's version, Katie had acquired the marriage license in advance. The plan to marry in Vegas had taken him by surprise. Just 5 weeks later, he sought an annulment. Harry claimed that Katie discovered an email from his lawyer about dissolving the marriage, and it was this discovery that motivated her to take out a restraining order against him. She made up claims about his aggressions to police to secure this protective order, he said. Only after Harry placed her name on the deed to the house and signed a postnuptial agreement did she agree to attempt a reconciliation. After receiving financial compensation, Katie rescinded the restraining order and allowed him back in the house. Conversely, it was asserted that Katie was the one seeking a divorce from her controlling and abusive husband. Prior to the pandemic, the doctor had been facing a malpractice suit, which alleged he had charged Medicare more than $31,000 over a 6-year period for services he did not perform. Initially, he allegedly hid this lawsuit from Katie. Just before the couple eloped, Harry settled that lawsuit, agreeing to pay a $150,000 fine, and was fired from his job at St. Elizabeth's. He did not take his fall from grace with dignity. He took it out on Katie. As his abuse escalated, she was forced to go to police. Arriving at Dover Police Station disheveled, the screen of her iPhone shattered, and she was crying. 2 versions of events were reported to police. Katie told officers at the front desk that Harry had been violent and she was filing for divorce. She didn't want to press charges, she just wanted them to know in case something happened to her. While at the station, Harry arrived. He said he had come by because he was worried his wife was going to make false accusations against him. He said Katie was the jealous and controlling one. He had never been violent, and he was leaving her to return to Germany. If only he had done so. Before he could make the move, the pandemic hit. He had to stay in the United States, and Katie's restraining order forced him from the house. Ultimately, in early May, the couple agreed to reconcile. But regardless of who you believe, issues in their relationship had already been firmly embedded. The reconciliation was not likely to be successful. Dr. Ingolf Tuerk, or just Harry, the Harley-Davidson-loving former Olympian-turned-celebrated surgeon, was arrested and charged with the first-degree murder of his wife. As the trial commenced, the jury also had the option of convicting him on the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter, should they find that he acted in a fit of passion. Harry's defense team, however, was going for the third option, an outright acquittal. Defense attorney Kevin Reddington argued his client acted in self-defense after his wife attacked him with a cocktail glass, and, crucially, was attempting to force him out of the house. In May 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic was raging. Due to the restraining order Katie had taken out against him, Harry had been forced to live in a hotel as the couple worked through their issues. He believed living there made him more susceptible to the virus, and by extension, death. According to his lawyer, his wife was motivated by sheer greed and forced him from his house during a public health crisis. In doing so, she had threatened his life. At least, that is what the surgeon believed when, in desperation, he strangled her.
That's where they go upstairs and the DA says that he, with his anger, decided that he was going to murder her. Well, that's a good life choice, huh? No, what actually happened, and you'll see the evidence is pretty clear, that what happens is they're in the bedroom and they're arguing. And she's talking about the other men. She's got hundreds of guys after her on these websites. And do you think I really loved you? Do you think I really loved you? I'm calling the police tomorrow. You're getting out of here. They got in the course of an argument. She had a rocks glass in her hand. She had her cell phone in the other hand. He got on his knees. He said, Katie, please don't. Smash the rocks glass off his head, the right side of his head, not the left side like the police think. At that point, with one hand, the size of that hand, the strength of that hand, he grabbed her, snapped the highway, she died.
The couple's dysfunctional marriage was the basis of both the defense and prosecution's arguments at trial. For the defense, this was Katie manipulating Harry for money, even while she pursued other men. For the Commonwealth, it was Harry's anger and resentment at his wife for forcing him from the house he had purchased, despite a public health crisis. He eventually found himself living out of a friend's camper in Florida after all of his other options had been exhausted. Then, that camper was sold. Desperate for somewhere to live, Harry claimed he was pressured into adding Katie's name to the deed for the house and into signing a postnuptial agreement in order to return to his home. According to those close to Katie, however, in April 2020, Harry offered to add her name to the deed as a gesture to signify his devotion and commitment to their reconciliation. It was meant to be a fresh start. It did not turn out that way.
I am sorry, brother, but she is a vindictive devil. I am really sorry, brother, but she manipulated us all. Love you, Harry. And in the course of this trial, you will also hear evidence about the defendant's anger towards Katie McLean. Evidence of anger that will prove that he is guilty of first-degree murder.
Vanessa Pettigrew took the stand to tell the jury about the Katie that she knew and the way her good friend had viewed her marriage. She was not motivated by greed, but rather still loved her husband and wanted it to work. But she was also a mother who needed to consider the security of her children, how his behavior impacted them, and conversely, how a divorce would uproot them from the lives they had established in Dover.
She had to weigh the pros and cons. She was very concerned about her children having a normal, stable life. She wanted the best for her kids. That's all she wanted.
And did they move towards reconciliation, if you know?
They did. And there were several things that they had to decide upon with each other that they would do moving forward to make it work, including having Dr. Tuerk undergo some psychiatric help and to refrain from alcohol.
Excuse me.
Sustained. Please disregard that. That last answer is stricken. Next question, please.
Vanessa's cross-examination was uncomfortable. She defended Katie's use of dating apps during her separation. She fought back against the implication that Katie was obsessive over Harry's movements, monitoring his messages, emails, and tracking his location through an app on her phone. This behavior went both ways, according to Vanessa. Vanessa pushed back on the defense's repeated assertion that the family home was not also Katie's. Technically, she was not put on the deed until the month of her death, but that's not the whole story.
Before May of 2020, it was his home, right?
No, overall.
You knew he owned the home, right?
Well, she put money into the home too. So
like what?
She put money from her home sale into the home, and she also helped build the garden in the back.
She didn't put a nickel into that home.
That's not my understanding.
Well, it may not be your understanding, but she didn't put a nickel into your home.
That's not my understanding.
Ma'am, you need
sorry.
to disregard that last answer, Jarvis.
If Vanessa's testimony was tense, it hardly touched upon the awkwardness of Kurt Pfannenstiel's cross-examination. Kurt was the neighbor who received the unsettling text message from Harry on the morning Katie disappeared. It seems the neighbor who the surgeon had called brother had been in more frequent contact with Katie than her husband. Before handing over his phone to police, the defense team grilled Kurt as to why he would delete almost all correspondence he had with both Harry and Katie.
You had indicated to the police that she had given you, strike that, he had given you a text indicating that she was a devil, I'm sorry, things of that nature, correct? Calling you brother, right?
Call you what?
Calling the text that he sent you, calling you brother and saying, sorry, she was a devil, she played us all. You remember that, right? So when you gave your phone to the police, you had that particular text that you gave them, right?
Yes.
That was about it. It was on your phone. There weren't any other texts on your phone, were they? Between you and Katie.
I don't recall what I did.
Do you remember taking your phone and deleting the texts? Hundreds of texts between you and Ms. McLean before you gave your phone to the police?
No, I don't.
Do you remember deleting the text from you and Ms. McLean?
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember deleting photographs or videos or FaceTime chats or anything like that?
No, I don't recall.
What did you say to her?
I want to see your boobs.
I want to see your boobs. Did she show you her boobs?
I don't recall.
You don't recall? Give me that, please.
Harry took the stand to tell his version of events. He began by explaining the nature of his and Katie's drive-through wedding in Vegas, which he likened to picking up burgers for dinner. He testified about the friends that allowed him to crash on their couches in the early days of the pandemic. Eventually, a former boss allowed him to live out of the camper in Florida. But by May 2020, the camper was being sold and he needed to leave. He told jurors that it was Kurt who reached out to him, handing the phone to Katie, who told him to come home to Massachusetts. She missed him and wanted to mend the marriage. The Commonwealth countered that the reconciliation had been prompted by Harry, not Katie. Regardless, he drove back and rented a suite at the Marriott.
What was your state of mind about the pandemic, sir?
I was scared.
Why?
I started to, the news about thousands of people dying every day started to get to me, and I didn't feel safe in the hotel without my own personal space. I believed I potentially belonged to the risk population of being 58 years old and not being safe, not being exposed to the environment.
The reconciliation was not straightforward. It came with conditions, Harry claimed.
So I was loving, kind, and accommodating, very accommodating, and expressed my
Was one
love
of
to
the
her.
things that was requested of you that you do something with the house?
Yes.
What was that?
She asked me to put her name on the deed.
Did you do that?
I did.
Why did you do that? I mean, this house is worth a couple of $1 million. Why did you do that?
If I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't have been able to come home.
So you signed a deed transferring interest to her, right?
Correct.
Did you also sign a postnuptial agreement?
That was part of it that I had to sign to be allowed to come back home.
Did you sign that?
I did.
What were the terms that did you have to pay any money on that?
Yes.
Okay.
As the two argued in the bedroom that night, Harry recounted how, as his wife attacked him, he had reacted. Harry testified that he had no intention of killing his wife. He also provided details that were omitted when he first confessed to police. In his new version, he had dropped to his knees to beg Katie to calm down. He also said he grabbed her neck with only one hand, not two, a conclusion questioned by the medical examiner. Finally, to the jury, he claimed that afterwards, before he dropped her half-naked body in a pond, he had tried CPR.
I tried to calm her down and said, "Please, Katie, stop. Please, Katie, please stop." And she was in the bed, and I kind of walked around and tried to calm her down, and I went on my knees and begged her to stop, please.
You went on your knees?
I went on my knees.
And you begged her to stop?
Yes.
And what did she say?
Said, "Fuck you."
What happened then?
She hit me.
With what?
It's a glass.
Did you know that? Did she hit you with the glass?
Yes.
And where did she hit you with the glass?
Right on my head.
When she hit you with the glass, did you get cut?
Yes, I bled.
What did you do then?
I snapped. I kind of blacked out.
What did you do?
I grabbed her.
Where?
On the neck.
How? And grabbed her with your hand by the throat. Did you intend to cause her harm and kill her?
No. Oh, never.
What did you do when you got to the pond with the Wrangler and with Katie?
I put her in the water.
When you put her in the water, did you take her top off?
No, I did not.
What happened to the top?
I have no idea.
Prosecutors questioned Harry's assertion that the former Olympian was in fear for his life. Was it not more likely that he was angry over being forced from the house once again, the house he considered to be his alone?
And you felt that the house was yours, right?
I bought it. Wasn't my name.
Did you feel like it was your property?
Yes.
And you still feel that way, right?
Well, I shared the deed with her. I don't know. I was as long gone. I was afraid of being thrown out again. She threatened me to be thrown, that I'm going to kick you out of the house. She asked me, "Get the fuck out of my house."
So you were afraid that you were going to have to leave 29 Valley.
I was afraid of dying of COVID.
You were afraid of dying of COVID, and you were afraid of having to leave 29 Valley.
I was afraid of dying of COVID.
There was also the question of intent. How does a board-certified surgeon apply the force required to strangle someone and not realize while doing so that their actions will result in death?
If I'm not intoxicated, I know that, yes.
If you're not intoxicated, you know that if the brain isn't getting enough oxygen for any reason, death occurs.
Yeah, when I'm not drunk, I know all that, yes.
But when you are drunk, you don't know that if your brain doesn't have oxygen, you die.
Probably do.
You probably do what?
Do know. I do know, but anyway, yes.
That's a basic medical concept, right?
Yes.
Reddington closed by asserting that the case was entirely about money. Katie had inquired about her name being on the house deed in the event of Harry's death. Her husband had also agreed in the postnuptial agreement to give her the Jeep, which she usually drove. She had received some money upon signing the agreement as well.
If he dies, do I get the house? If he dies, do I get the house? You saw that from the text twice that she sent to Mr. Keighton about the deed. Get on the house, get on the property, you own it. If he dies, you get it. Height of the pandemic, get out. You heard, get out. Get out, go walk to your hotel. Leave the car's mine. No, it's not. Well, the judge says it is, as is the house. This is all about money. And she played him pretty darn good. She's more interested in talking to guys and doing whatever she's doing with Kurt You heard the evidence. What do you think was in her mind? You think she really wanted to reconcile? No, she wanted the deed. She wanted the house. She wanted the security. We can say security. She wanted the security. So this fool signs a deed against his lawyer's advice. He says to him, don't sign the deed. Don't sign the post-nup. What are you, nuts? There is no basis for alimony of a 5-week marriage. You've been played. But he signs the deed. She played us. She was the devil. I love you, Harry. This is the end of a tragic human story. But I suggest to you, members of the jury, that when you consider Judge Hallal's instructions, ever mindful of the burden of proof, this man is not guilty of murder. Thank you.
The Commonwealth agreed that greed was at the heart of Katie's killing, but not hers, that of Dr. Ingolf Tuerk. Money and the house were his motive for murder.
Or in self-defense. He was under extreme stress from the pandemic, had just placed her name on the deed of the house, and snapped that night when she threatened to make him leave again. He also suggests that because Katie had texted with friends about her relationship with her husband, and because she wanted stability for her children, that she just wanted his house and his money, and never really wanted to reconcile. And that, coupled with the fear of being kicked out of his own home during the pandemic, is what led him to snap. Ladies and gentlemen, I suggest that is not heat of passion. It is not self-defense. It is motive to kill.
The jury delivered its verdict after 5 hours of deliberation. After it was read, the disgraced doctor wept.
Madam Foreperson, what say you as to indictment number 2020 CR 0138, charging the defendant Ingolf Tuerk with murder? Is he guilty of any offense charged?
He is.
Guilty of what?
He's guilty of voluntary manslaughter.
May the verdict be affirmed, Your Honor.
It may.
Members of the jury, hearken to your verdict as the court so recorded it. You on your oath do say that the defendant Ingolf Tuerk is guilty of the lesser included offense of voluntary manslaughter. So say you, Madam Foreperson?
Yes.
So say you, all members of the jury?
Yes.
Thank you. May the verdict slip be filed and recorded.
Dr. Tuerk avoided an automatic sentence of life imprisonment that would have come with a first-degree conviction. His sentencing hearing is currently scheduled for May 16, 2025, almost exactly 5 years after he took the life of his wife, Kathleen Katie McLean. Her loved ones wrote that Katie had an energy and light that drew people to her. Her bright blue eyes, fiery red hair, and smile is how we will think of and remember her. And that was the tragic case of Katie McLean and the downfall of Dr. Ingolf Harry Tuerk. Thanks for joining me, and a special thanks to Graham Deacher, Rebecca John Sampson, Melissa Hardman, My Closet Space, Jojo Anusha, Sherry Gates, and Rosa M. and Kids for joining the Members Lounge. We really appreciate your extra support. I'm Kevin. This is Just Thought Lounge, and I'll see you in the next one.
Pick it a litter, you see how Newton got his back. Yeah, the content that you need, this could be a new sign. We talk in the comments, they jot in a few lines. Tune in and hit like, love that, it's too kind. Feels like the whole world is online for true crime. Watch them on the run, but it's not a race. Really hard to disappear, poof without a